So here we have using fractions for quantities greater than 1. We already know fractions can be used to show numbers less than 1, but you can represent a quantity greater than 1 as a fraction or mixed number. This diagram represents a quantity greater than 1. Both rectangles are divided into sixths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of 6, or 6/6, of the first rectangle are shaded. 1/6, or 1 out of 6, of the second rectangle is shaded. 7/6 of the rectangles are shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The first rectangle is completely shaded. That is one whole. 1/6 of the second rectangle is shaded. 1 and 1/6 rectangles are shaded. The total amount shaded is 7/6, or 1 and 1/6. So fourth graders, a mixed number is a number that has whole numbers and fractions. And it's a number bigger than 1, like this. And we can write it in two ways. Here is a diagram of another quantity greater than 1. Can you think what that might be? Well, you can see down here already. There are two whole squares shaded, and 3/4, or 3 out of 4, of another square. 2 and 3/4 squares are shaded. 4/4 of the first square are shaded, and 4/4 of the second square are shaded. That's 8/4. 3/4 of the last square are shaded. That's 8, 9, 10, 11. 11/4 shaded. Let's try this now. Let's try it. Let's start with 4/3. Remember, we look at that bottom number, right? This would be 11/3, 2 and 3/8, 1 and 3/4, 17/8, and so on. We're going to try 4/3. I'm going to use a tool to help me. I know that the denominator is how many parts I have per piece. So I'm going to use this to break my squares into thirds. And I know that I have 4 thirds to color in. So I know it's going to be greater than 1. All right, I'm going to shade in 1, 2, 3, 4. I did it. I shaded 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds. So now that I see that, I can make it into a mixed number. I can see that this one whole square is shaded, so that's one whole. I don't have another whole, so it's only 1. But what I do have is 1 out of 3. So I have this fancy tool here. I'm going to click this and click fraction. And I have 1 out of 3. Close that. Now I'm just going to bring this down here. And I have 1 and 1/3. Let's start over and start with a mixed number this time. This time, let's do 1 and 3/4. Okay, well, I know right away that I have one whole. I'm just going to go ahead and color in one whole square because I know that's a whole. I also know that I have some parts to split my square into. I'm going to look at that denominator. Remember, denominator down. They both start with a D. So that's the bottom number. That tells me how many parts to split each rectangle into. It's like we're sharing sandwiches between 4 people. Okay. I need 4 equal parts. And there I have 4 equal parts. I already have my one whole. Now I need 3 out of 4 more. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I know they're not perfect. Okay, So I have 1 and 3/4. Well, if I were to split this one into fourths as well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Going back to my fancy fraction tool, I have 7/4. And there's my new answer. This time I started with a mixed number and made it into what's called an improper fraction. These two numbers are equivalent. 7/4 is the same as 1 and 3/4. You can see that because of fourths, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those fourths shaded. But I also can look at it as I have one whole square and 3/4 of another. So fourth graders, you'll be doing this yourselves, but you're going to cut out cards to do it. Hey guys, so how to make your fraction cards. You'll need one of these for each of your numbers. You can cut out from your math book the numbers. I'm going to start with 2/3. I'm just going to label that. So since I know I need thirds, I have these different pages I can do. And I'm going to go with the thirds. I'm just going to cut out one of the boxes. Now you'll notice there's dotted lines and there's solid lines. We do not cut solid lines. Let me repeat that. You do not cut solid lines, only the dotted lines. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a few of them. And just to keep myself organized, I'm going to cut out all the white edges that I'm not going to need and throw them away first so I don't get confused and keep things tidy. So I'm going to stop right there. I've cut out this part, and now my scraps, I'm going to throw them in the trash. Okay, now everything else that I have here, I'm going to need. I'm actually going to do something fancy. I'm going to fold it so I don't have to cut as many times. You don't have to do that. You can just cut them out, but this way when I cut one, I'm going to cut two at the same time. See that? So now I'm going to do it again. Put this on top of here. Cut here. Now I have all of these. So remember, this is the part that's tricky. You do not want to cut the solid lines, only the dotted lines. So I'm going to stack up my pile, and there's a square. There's a square. Don't have to be perfect, just pretty good. And now I have a whole pile, and so I'm going to want to make sure that I keep my thirds together. I'm going to cut up the others as well later. So now I can take this. I'm going to glue it on. I only need one of them because I'm only going to color in 2 out of 3 because you can read this as 2/3 or 2 out of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it. I just put like a dot there. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I like using highlighters because they're thicker on the end. It makes it easier to color in. And I'm coloring 2. I want to color it in really well. This part is the only part I would say try to be a little more perfect. As in color in the whole thing. Ta-da! 2 out of 3. Maybe I'll just outline the rest of the box so it's really easy to see. There it is. Now I'm going to show you another number that is going to need more than 1. I'm going to do 1 3/4. That is a mixed number. It's mixed because it has both a whole number and the 1 and a fraction. 1 3/4. So I don't have any fourths squares, but I do have these whole squares. So I'm going to cut this up just like I did before. and just cut out my little squares. Now keep these separate from your pile of thirds so you don't get confused. And clip. And now I have a stack of these. Now I know I'm going to need one hole, so I'm just going to go ahead and color one hole and then put it on. The easiest way to do it is just to turn your card around to the back and color like this, because then you can do it kind of messy, but get the whole square colored. See that? And now that one's fine, that one's beautiful. Gonna glue it down. But I know I'm gonna need more than one because I also have that 3/4. So I need to also put another one on. Now this one, I have to break it into 4 parts. That denominator, D for down, denominator, tells me how many parts to split it. So I'm going to split this 4 ways by putting a line in down the middle, a vertical line, and then I'm going to split it horizontally across. And I'll do the same here. It's not perfect, but see how I did that? Vertical, horizontal. Now I have 4 equal-ish groups. They're supposed to be equal. It's a representation. And now, how many do I have to color in? 3 of them. Okay, 1 and 2 and 3. Really, guys? That's it. So what I would recommend is that you and your partner or your group of 3 and split up all of the numbers. No one wants to do them all by themselves. But if you're both working on the same number at the same time, you're not going to get very many done unless you're confused and need to talk about it. Okay, that is what we're making. Off you go.